Welcome back, guys, to another edition of the Go Earn It podcast. And today I have the pleasure to be sitting down and talking to one of the best refs in MMA right now. He's worked for UFC, Bellator, the likes of every fight promotion you can think of. It is Mike Beltran. Mike, how you doing today, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, brother? How are you?
Thank you so much for being on the Go Earn It podcast today. For listeners out there that don't know who Mike Beltran is, Mike, you want to give the listeners a little insight of what you do as far as the job you do in MMA?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a professional MMA referee. I've refereed for about 12, 13 years now. Yeah. I've been in the game. I've been privileged to work some pretty cool shows: UFC, Bellator, King of the Cage, Strikeforce. Pretty much all the bigger promotions that have been out, and have worked my way to the top. So
yeah,
and here I am today with you.
Yes, yeah. Once again, thank you so much for being on. The way I met Mike was, I've always followed, MMA, especially UFC, and I knew you just from watching you ref so many fights, and I came across your page on Instagram, and you were liking some of our stuff and vice versa, and I was like, man, I'd love to get Mike Beltran on the podcast. And the special connection you have that relates back to the Go Earn It podcast is that your son, little Mikey, wrestles in high school right now, and so I thought it'd be a great time to talk to you, not only about your MMA career as far as being a professional referee, but talk a little bit about little Mikey and how wrestling's impacted not only his life but yours. So let's get started from square one. What before we talk about Mikey and everything, what got you into the sport of MMA as far as being a referee? Where did that route come into play for you?
You know what? I began training in 2002.
Yeah.
Back then it was called NHB. And I started at a gym in La Mirada called Shark Tank with Jay Martinez. Actually,
yep.
He was a pro fighter, stud wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the sport was pretty much in its infancy stage. It was still developing. It was already established, but it was definitely growing. It was called NHB back in the day. And I began training there, and I also began training at the gym where I'm currently at today. It was New Breed Academy. It was jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And that was when it both clicked. I started doing NHB over here, and then jiu-jitsu over here, and just being around fighters and training with them, and getting them ready for their fights. And I thought it was cool getting my ass kicked with these dudes that were getting ready to fight.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fun. I thought it was good to train. It was a good way to stay in shape. I just love the camaraderie, man. The brotherhood that's in the gym. You're working with them, and you see every emotion that's in there,
right.
Especially guys that really want it, So I began my training and started really focusing on jiu-jitsu. And my coach was John Owano, who was a Carlson Gracie black belt.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he trained with Rodrigo Medeiros, and we're under the Carlson Gracie flagship. So that's our lineage. And he was the guy that made the gloves for the UFC.
Oh, wow.
He was the one that made the gloves, and he had that connection. And being around so many fights and being around, seeing the refereeing and what was going on, I said, man, I think I could do that. I would love to be an official. I'd like to referee. I'm around these guys. I know the sport.
Right.
And obviously was growing so fast and developing, and I was a part of that transition because I was on the mat training with these dudes and gals. And I asked John, he goes, hey, how can I get into this as my coach? And obviously Johnny Ramirez is my primary coach now, who's a Rodrigo Medeiros black belt.
Mm-hmm.
And so John said, you know what, man, I got a good friend of mine. His name is Big John McCarthy. And I said, yeah, I think I know who that guy is.
Now, how established was he at that point when you started getting into reffing?
I mean, John's been the standard.
Yeah.
Let's keep it real. There's nobody better than Big John McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I one day wish I could be just as good, he is a standard. Let's just make no mistake about it.
Right.
He's the man who started it. He's evolved. He's evolved with the sport. He's done so much for the sport and so for so many people, such as myself. I'm just one of hundreds and thousands that he's influenced.
Right.
So Big John took me under his wing, and he goes, "Oh, well, you want to do this? Well, this is what you got to do." And make a long story short, I got involved and I started doing shows, smokers, man, back in the day. and my first professional fight was in TJ.
Wow.
I refereed in Mexico. I'm Mexican, so I speak fluent Spanish. So when I was in Tijuana, I mean, look, dude, bottom line, bro, if you can referee in TJ back then, you can referee anywhere, bro. Like, fight.
It's like the old Wild Wild West town, huh?
Dude, it was insane, man. My fight doctor was completely drunk, sitting on his stool, trying to pick ring girls. And fighter had a major cut. I called time, and he goes, "It's okay, it's okay." And he's trying to pick up on ring girls and just drinking his beer. I'm like, "Oh shit, dude, what I get myself into?" Man. Yeah, that's pretty much how it started. And John has been the biggest influence in. I've had several people, not just Big John, but Larry Landless was a very big influence in my refereeing career. Obviously, Herb Dean is a good friend of mine, and Jason Herzog.
I got to meet the first UFC in Chicago. I forgot who headlined it. I think it was Rashad Evans and maybe Phil Davis. And I had floor seats. My dad took me. It was like one of the best experiences I've ever had, because when you go to a UFC event, you get to see everybody. You can picture it, when you watch it on TV compared to live. And so the first two people I met was Big John and Herb Dean. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. So as far as them two go, I mean, I would say you're right up there as far as the quality level of refereeing they have now in MMA, because you see there's so many different athletic commissions throughout the whole country, and California State Athletic Commission is one of the best out there, so to speak, and so how was that process for you getting into CSAC and everything else? How's that been for you and working for the commission?
There's no doubt about it. The California State Athletic Commission is the best.
Yeah.
We have the best commission. We have Andy Foster, who was also a pro fighter, very brilliant man. He's very smart. He knows the sport, knows the ins and outs of the sports, knows the policy, understands concussion protocol, understands everything. He's changed it in an administrative way that has only benefited the sport, and he continues to evolve to making it better. He is a trendsetter. Andy Foster is, and that's who I work for.
Yeah.
Great guy to work for. I mean, there's a lot of good commissions out there, but there's no doubt that California is a standard, and we are the biggest commission. We have the most shows than anybody else, but that's why we have so much experience, because we get to do so many events. But when you have somebody like that who knows what time it is and knows what it's like to be in the cage or in the ring with a fighter and understands combat sports like Andy Foster does, and he listens to folks like Big John or Herb, myself, Jason, our doctors, inspectors, back in the back, and he gets it, bro. And that's, of course, the guy's also trained, and he's a brown belt. He's also fought, so he's got a pretty respective record. So we're fortunate to have him, and right now we're riding a good wave with him. So he's doing a phenomenal job.
For sure. So is it tough for you when, especially you don't work always in California? You obviously travel, being a referee for a multitude of different promotions. How is it for you to now? How does that work as far as the rule changes by commission to commission? Like, how does that? How do those rules get enforced by you? Is it just you have to follow that specific state's athletic commission, or do you follow the guidelines of your own? Like, how does that work for you guys as traveling refs?
Well, every state's different. You can't bring what you have in your home state and implement it in some other state. It's just like, don't do that.
Right.
You don't go to somebody else's house and tell them how to run it.
Right.
So they have their own guidelines. So for the most part, we're all under the unified rules, with the exception of some states that resist it or haven't yet switched over, or not quite up to speed yet. And, as much as you and I and people that maybe are, your listeners and folks that understand the sport and are around it, we get it. But to your average person, it's still growing, man. It's still pretty much, it's the fastest growing sport out there, no doubt. But it's still, there's still a lot of work to be done.
It's still a teenager in perspective, I would say the Wild Wild West days of the 90s and the early 2000s, that was you can consider that the child. And now as MMA is growing bigger, like you said, the fastest growing sport, it's becoming a teenager now where it's starting to grow quickly, and you're starting to adjust to everything that's changing, so just like a teenager would be changing. The UFC, the Beltran, all these fight promotions are changing, and that's because of athletic commissions like you guys that implement rules, make it what it is, a professional sport. Most people back in the 90s and early 2000s thought MMA was barbaric, and now it's highly regarded as a sport that people like to watch. And these guys are athletes just as much as a basketball player or anything else. And for a guy like yourself, how does that compare to you when you see other sports and then you watch your own sport that you ref? Is it a different mindset, or do you hold MMA at the highest standard of athleticism, etc.?
There's different levels of athletes. That's like obviously MMA is a combination of all the martial arts. So there's so many disciplines and so many studs from respective arts, including wrestling, that yet not have it evolved to boxers or stand-up fighters. So they all but now today they're all studs, man. They're all hybrids. They're just straight savages, man. They're just insane. But it's hard to compare because you have, one's a combat sport. I think the mindset of an athlete is always going to be the mindset of an athlete. Obviously, combat sports just takes a different kind of a psyche, no, because you're going to be getting hit and you can hit back, and there's inherent risks, including death. So I would say I would put that at the highest level, But then again, you have football where you got these 285-pound linebackers, monsters, running 4.4s coming at you as a running back that's maybe 210,
5'9".
5'9". The theory of relativity, man, is it'll happen, bro.
Right?
Something's gonna falter here. So everybody has their inherent risks as far as combat sports or even contact sports, but I'm biased, so
of course you got to be.
I would have to put MMA at the top of the list, no doubt.
For sure. And now with all these unified changes, with the unified rule system, and with the current state of MMA, what do you think from right now and the next 12 months, what do you think the biggest obstacle, the state of MMA, what I'm trying to get at is, what's the biggest, with weight cutting, concussion protocol, everything else, what's the biggest thing, say, for example, the California State Athletic Commission, what are they trying to implement next to bring the sport to a better, safer level? Are you guys, you guys are constantly working on different things, just like you guys implemented the new weight cutting rule systems, and guys have to be a certain weight amount, coming into fight week. What's the next step for you guys? What are you guys currently implementing to, better the sport?
Well, that's a mouthful there. Number one is when there's changes, there's going to be resistance.
Right.
And, it's hard to change old school mentality when wrestlers have been cutting weight for so many years and so many pounds, 20 pounds, overnight, and I did it before and this and that. Well, it's hard to do it when you're 28. It's hard to do it when you're in your 30s. There's a lot of give and take. There's a lot of dehydration that occurs in the brain. So it's hard to change that subculture, that mentality into modern combat sports. In wrestling, obviously you get, it's a tough sport, but you're not getting hit in the head with full punches. So That's just one example. But I think it's changing the mindset, the subculture of getting everybody on board with that. And that takes time. That takes a moment. But when they start hitting your pocketbook, and then the studies are proven, and this is what is safer for you guys. And even though sometimes it's safer for guys, some people just are still in that mindset, like, hey, I used to do it like this, and why is this? And, nobody likes changes. Hell, I don't like changes.
Yeah, I know. I hear you.
I'm the worst.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still old school, man. I still listen to LL Cool J. I'm not down with those today.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm more down with Run DMC than I was, than I am what's going on today.
Yeah.
So it's just me.
Yeah, for sure. I guess and I can go hours with you talking about MMA, but like I said, I want to talk about Lil Mikey and wrestling and the impact it's made on you. My last question was, how was the experience reffing Fedor versus Frank Mir? What was that like for you as that's a milestone in your career, I'd have to imagine, correct?
No doubt, man. That was wow, what an honor.
Yeah.
I mean, for both of them, Frank
Mir
and Fedor. I was, bro, it was amazing. Man, it was just a tremendous honor. Frank Mir's a big dude.
Yeah.
And Fedor is deceivingly bigger than what he looks like. And boy, does he move fast.
Yeah.
I'm dumbfounded at how fast that man moves and how accurate and how he moves. I know Frank's a big dude. He hits hard. I know his jits is off the chain. It was just a really monumental moment for me. It was surreal, to be honest with you.
Yeah, as a ref, I know any ref, as a professional and doing a good job at it, they can never have a bias towards one fighter or another. They can never have predictions. It's not fair, not only for the fighters, but your job. This is your career. You can't jeopardize that by having, preferences or favorites. But for you, were you expecting that fight to last so short? Or what was the mindset of going into that bout? Because, you as a ref, it can end split second or it could be a 3-round snoozer. What was your take on the mindset before the fight?
That's a very good question, bro. It really is, and I have an honest answer. I went in there like I would go in there with any fight. Like, I'm going to give these guys the best of me. I'm going to do the best I can for them and for the sport and for their safety. Boy, was I nervous, 100%. Oh, hell yeah. Because I not that I feel pressure from outside people. I think I handle it quite well. Internally, I put that on me that I want to do the best I can.
Yeah.
As far as how the direction it was going to go and who was going to do what, I don't really focus on that. Honestly, what I'm focusing on is not missing a foul, not missing an eye poke, not missing something because I'm out of position, or I just didn't want to miss something that was going to hinder, each side. I didn't want to be. I just didn't want that on me. So I was very focused. Extremely focused on what's in front of me, and positioning is everything. When we're moving around, some of these guys move around so fast, especially the lighter weights. And I'm a big dude. I'm 230 pounds. I'm 6'2".
Yeah.
I'm not a 45er, dude. So I try to as much position as I can.
Yeah.
But when you got these guys here positioning with everything, I just didn't want to mess anything up, and I wanted to give. In this case, I wanted to give Frank the best, time to recover or to get himself out of danger. Excuse me. And when he didn't, it was time to pull the trigger, and I didn't want to see him get hurt because Fedor hits hard.
Yeah.
He was throwing bombs, and I felt them.
Yeah.
They were booming, bro.
Yeah, the stoppage was well justified. Especially with heavyweights, those guys are throwing haymakers, so it's better to stop it early than late. So let's transition. Obviously, the big highlight of what I wanted to talk about today was your son, Mikey. Let's talk a little bit about that. When did Mike start wrestling? When did you get him into sport like wrestling, and how was that first takeoff for him as far as getting some success and learning about wrestling? Where did that start for him?
Mikey began wrestling at 4 years old. My neighbor, Jesse Bueno, his son is now at West Point.
Okay.
He was a stud Bosco wrestler, and Jesse's been a very big influence in my son's life as well as mine as far as wrestling goes.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing jiu-jitsu, but he says, hey, take him to wrestling with Jake, his son, who was a couple years older than him, and I'll be his coach, who was at SoCal, great program down here in Southern California. And now they transitioned over into the Tribe program, which is at St. John Bosco. Now that's the little powerhouse there in SoCal. So Mikey was there at 4 years old. He was a little munchkin. It was more just fundamentals for him to have fun and experience different things. So he began wrestling at 4, and he's been on the mat since he was 4 years old, and obviously watching me train. And he grew up with jiu-jitsu and judo, but he began at that age, and it wasn't the greatest experience for him in the beginning. He had fun, but there was obviously bigger kids, and he's an annoying little brat at 4 years old, disrupting class and just being a little knothead.
Yeah.
The last day of practice, some kids shoved him and launched him across the room when they were doing warm-ups. And, boys are going to be boys. Of course, I don't like somebody punking my kid, and I couldn't who did it, but he got a little shell-shocked. But, he got back and he got on the mat on jiu-jitsu. So he went between wrestling and jits.
Yeah.
Did some other wrestling camp, some other wrestling school that was a little closer to the house.
Mm-hmm.
That was also good, but obviously my divorce set in.
Okay.
And that was really a difficult part in our lives, especially the damage it did to my son.
Right.
And divorce is not nice for anybody. You know what I mean? So it sucked. It really sucked. So there was a lot of disconnection between wrestling and consistency with one parenting style, which is me, which is I believe in structure and fundamentals and a solid foundation in athletics and academics,
right?
To keep these kids focused on something, especially when my son is very athletic. Mom had a different unconventional approach, and I'll just leave it at that. I just I wish her the best, but we just were at complete odds of parenting, and you don't have to go if you don't want to, and this and that. So you give a child an out, and sometimes when they face adversity or challenges, they fold and they'd rather take the easy way out. So it took a while, but I allowed Mikey to play a lot of different sports. Michael loved soccer. He played soccer for years. He was a stud soccer player. Football, basketball. He thought he was Kurt Rambis. He got hurt, bro. He got hurt more. Bro, I'm telling you, Angel, he got hurt more. I was in the ER more in basketball in one season than I've ever been taking this kid to the ER.
Really?
In basketball.
Like sprains, knees, what was...
Jumping for the ball, and he's a rough kid. Mikey's a little scrapper.
Yeah. He's
throwing elbows, and he's launching himself for the ball, and broken arms. Dude, he was a mess. And so basketball, it's a tough sport, man. So I give those dudes some credit when they're in the paint. They're banging, man.
Right.
So, eventually, I ended up with full custody of my son through a lot of issues that happened in our divorce, and
sure.
It was probably the best interest of my son that he stayed with Dad, and he wanted to be with Dad, and there was consistency here, and there was a lot of love and a lot more. Not that Mom didn't love him, but it was probably best in the best interest. No doubt, yeah. It's turned out to be in the best interest, and Mom will always be Mom, but it just hasn't been the best. But better examples, who was better off with Dad.
Right.
And he was consistent in sports, and it was tough, bro. It was really, really tough, man, being a single dad, and getting him stabilized academically.
Yeah.
Because I had tutors for him to get him up to speed. Then I got him. Then he began wrestling consistently in 7th grade. During this time, he did a lot of jiu-jitsu, was smashing it in jiu-jitsu. He was doing very, very well. but the key factor that he lacked was wrestling.
Yeah.
Wrestling, we started our wrestling journey to make Michael a better jiu-jitsu practitioner because he loved jiu-jitsu. I love jiu-jitsu, and jiu-jitsu is amazing.
Yeah.
But my friend, it's not wrestling.
No.
The mindset is not wrestling. It's a different curriculum. You don't. It's
apples and oranges. Honestly, it's apples and oranges. It's a
totally different. I'm not a wrestler, so I never wrestled
Right.
other than jiu-jitsu and training on the mat and doing some really basic jit. So to say I'm a wrestler is the far cry, dude.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
decent, but I suck. I'm not a real wrestler. You know, he began training at Tribe at a St. John Bosco.
Yeah.
To get himself better for jiu-jitsu. And I don't like wrestling. This sucks. What? Because you're getting your ass kicked, son.
Yeah.
You're realizing these dudes are some studs and they're taking it to you, and you pulling guard, you're already down points. So
It's one of the most humbling sports to find out who you truly are. You know, you want to find out a lot about yourself, do a combat sport. And I think wrestling's the best one because you're not hitting anybody, you're not taking any physical damage, so to speak. But if you want to learn what kind of a person you're made of, try wrestling because not a lot of people can do it.
Well, it was tough. He liked the fact he was being challenged, but didn't like the fact he was getting his ass handed to him.
Right.
He just, but that side of Mikey is unique that a lot of kids don't have, is that competitiveness that he can turn a switch on. And once we turned that switch on and focused him into not pulling guard, it killed his jiu-jitsu.
Did that ever happen early in his wrestling career? Did it slip?
Coach wanted to kill him. He looked at me, Michael, this is not jiu-jitsu. Stand up, not pulling guard,
Yeah, right.
He's looking for lapels. He's grabbing the shirt to throw him, and it was pretty primitive, man. It was pretty novice of him when he first got back on there. He had a fundamental of it through the we have some really stud wrestling coaches that teach at Newbury, but
yeah.
Nothing like real curriculum of wrestling, the technique. And he didn't want to compete. I just want to try this. Dad, I want to do a tournament. Okay, but I'm gonna get my ass kicked. I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna get my butt kicked. He was a little baby. I want to get my butt kicked, Dad. Well, just go out there, Mikey. All I want you to do is do your best.
Yeah.
If you do your best, that's all I can ask for. If I know you're slacking, I'm not gonna waste my time.
Right.
He placed. Wow. He got a little medal. He was excited about it. And then from there, he realized that he had something that was competitive in him. And he was definitely behind the 8 ball because these other kids had been wrestling since they were 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. They were babies.
Oh, yeah.
And he was competing with them. So something was special there. And that's it. We were hooked on wrestling. He was doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling. And when the crossroad came was basically it's and mind you, man, it was a very tough thing for me because I really love jiu-jitsu. I really love all aspects of the ground game.
Sure.
But I knew that there was a chance that Mikey could, if he wrestles hard enough and trains hard enough, and God willing, he gets into a college and gets an education, and you can't get a full ride scholarship doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, there's opportunities with wrestling that jiu-jitsu just doesn't have. I mean, maybe, and I mean, I don't even know if that in the future, but wrestling-wise, I mean, if you have a heart for it and you think you can compete at the collegiate level, there's very, very many opportunities that you can get paid to go to school. So why not, So fast forward, Mikey's a junior currently right now. Going into his senior year. Let's reflect on this year a little bit. I know we got a little bit more time with you. Hope you don't mind. We got a couple more minutes.
We're good.
Perfect. How did Mikey's season pan out his junior year? Tell me a little bit about some reflections you can have on his season.
Well, his freshman and sophomore year were definitely learning curves.
Big time.
And his body, he started at 117 when he got to Bosco, 115 or 117.
Okay.
Today he's 171. And this past year with the experiences that he had and under Coach Ruben Valencia and Jeff Anderson and the great coaches at St. John Bosco, Mikey's traveled all over the country and wrestled in tournaments. He isn't the greatest. I have realistic expectations for him. I'm not saying my son's is oh my God, he's the greatest thing on earth, because that's a far cry from the truth. But he's competitive.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. Not to cut you off, but that's a very good and very insightful remark you just made, because a lot of dads or moms or parents, guardians, coaches, when they don't have a realistic expectation and look on the athlete itself, a lot of these kids get taught and raised that they're the best and they're number one, and then the moment they face defeat, it crushes them. So it's important that I want to bring that up, and I want you to shed some light on that, about that comment you made.
Yeah, I mean, it's you have to be real, bro. You have to be real, man. And I'm real with my son. I know my son's special. I know he's tough. I know Mikey's mentally tough. He has a switch. There's a lot of upside to Mikey.
Yeah.
But he also is not world class. He's competitive. Mm-hmm. He's competitive on a national level. He's competitive on a state level. He's definitely above average. But to put him like with an Aaron Pico or a Valencia or Zaid or Anthony, dude, I'd be throwing my son to the wolves, and it would be, that's not realistic.
Right.
I know he has the potential with his frame, and by the time he fills out and everything else, and his work ethic, he's a hard worker.
Yeah.
Both in the classroom and on the mat. That with the right coaching and the right system, Mikey will be a stud. Would he be a national champion? In NCAA, anything is possible.
Yeah, but anything is really.
But anything is possible. We haven't even crossed that bridge. We're still in high school here.
Right.
Is Mikey going to be a state champion this year? Honestly, I like to think he would, and I would cheer for him. Mm-hmm. And to me, he'll always be a champ. But I honestly believe that there's so much better kids out there than him. Do I believe now he can place in state this year? And the direction he's going, and the way we have structure here at home, and we have a plan here, and he's following it. And if everything, barring any injuries like last season,
knock on wood,
knock on wood, brother, he has a chance.
Yeah,
he has a realistic chance. But to say he's going to be a champion, and this dude, I'd be lying to him. I go, Mijo, you can do what you want to do, and you got to think in your head you can beat that guy. And if anytime you compete with somebody, you make them remember you.
Right.
That point those points that they got on you, they earned, and it wasn't given.
Right.
And you walk out of it with your head up high and never cry on the mat, never show, you're going to be upset, especially when he didn't make it to state because he got taken out on the last match in overtime.
Yeah.
And I said, look, dude, not here. In the car, you cry. You're in front of me, not in front of your peers. You just suck it up, shake that kid's hand, wish him well, shake the coach's hand with respect, get in the car. We got work to do.
Yeah, man. It's a pride thing, especially as young men going in through high school or college. It's hard to take a loss, whether it's anything, any aspect. Losing's not fun, but I think it's very important, and that's why I'm so grateful to have you on, just to shine that aspect on a parent of a wrestler, because there's so many different types and personalities, and especially a guy like yourself, it's good to keep grounded and be realistic. I kind of fell on the same path Mikey did. I didn't wrestle in 7th and 8th grade because I thought wearing the tights was stupid and it looked silly. Fast forward, I joined freshman year, and it clicked with me my sophomore to junior year that I started getting good at the sport in my aspect. And I was fortunate enough that I qualified for state my senior year, and I took that as a milestone in my life because I took pride on knowing that I started my freshman year, and just based off of strictly hard work,
Absolutely,
I got
dude.
to that point. I didn't win a match at state, but it didn't matter because I was like, dude, I worked my butt off for 4 years to get to state. This is something that I thought I'd never be able to do, and so a guy like Mikey, it's cool to watch him and see what he's gonna do next year, because regardless, this sport is gonna teach him more than he'll ever imagine. You know?
He's learned a lot, and that's impressive because I know what goes into it. I see these kids, what they go through. I know what my son goes through. I know what we go through every day. I make sure, he has to want it. Number
Yeah.
one. I mean, and I'm his biggest cheerleader. I'm his support. I'm dad. I don't coach, dude. I'm not that dad that'll fight with a coach and think I know more than a coach. Hell, I never wrestled, dude. How can
Right.
I do? That's ridiculous. That's
Yeah.
now the jiu-jitsu. I can coach him, but it's for the most part. I'm dad. Dad, you're supposed to shut up and be a cheerleader.
Yeah.
Don't shut up. Stay in the back. Unless you're like a Randy Couture or Dan Anderson.
Right. You're a legitimate coach that you can
You're a
say.
legitimate coach, then yeah, you better get your son's attention, and maybe even then you may not relate because you're still dad.
Yeah.
So we have to step away. But I'm a cheerleader for that, there's a lot of support here. He did get injured last season. Man, he was doing so well, and unfortunately, people,
You
stuff
can't
happens.
do anything about injuries.
And
So
you can't.
what was the injury like? How's he recovered from that, and how's training right now? Tell me a little bit about the world Mikey's living in now and his mindset going into his senior year. This is a big year for him.
You know what? That injury. Even with the injury, he still bounced back. He did win league, CIF, went to Masters. It was just a match away from state. Lost in overtime.
Yeah.
It was a breaker, but that time frame of missing and being off the mat and the timing, what it caught up to you when you reach those higher level kids.
Big time.
And I think if he would have been steady, he would have done well in state. I don't maybe he might have placed. He would have competed a little better, no doubt.
Yeah.
But now we look back, and I sit down and I talk to him. I go, look, mijo, you got to chalk up all these wins and losses, experiences. I go, son, it's life. This is life. This is teaching you to, when you get knocked down, and you're one of two things that you're going to do, mijo. You're going to either tuck your tail between your legs and be that guy and blame the world that this happened and this could have, would have, should have, or zip it, get in the gym, hit the books, and make a name for yourself, dude. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to do. And your dad's here to support you, and we're going to do it. You're not going to like it sometimes when I tell you to get up to go train, because we're going to train.
Yeah.
And I goes, I don't like to get up in the morning and go to work, but guess what? You got to do it, brother.
Right.
I go, 2 jobs in this house, 2 jobs. Study, make honor roll, kick ass in school. That's
Yep.
your number. That's numero uno here in Casa Beltran. Is you're going to study, and 2, wrestle your ass off.
That's awesome.
That's it. That's 2 jobs. Oh, and clean the dog poop and take out the trash.
See, I have twin brothers. They're going to be 18 next weekend. By the way, I want to give them a shout out to Richie and Chris for congratulating them on being high honor roll for 4 years in high school. That's
Awesome.
That's something I never could ever accomplish 10 times over, and I never want to say I could, because now I'm proud to see them do something I can never do.
That's
So,
awesome.
Mike, my last question to you. By the way, I'd like to speak with Mikey sometime, so tell him to hit me up. I got some more extra gear for him that I want him to train in to rep,
you.
because I think he represents an athlete that that means to go earn it. So my last question as I sign off the podcast. Thank you so much, Mike, for being on. Anyways, what in Mike Beltran's mind? What's his opinion on 3 words? Go earn it. What does go earn it mean to Mike Beltran?
It's motivational. It's to me, it's go earn it is It's actually pretty cool. That's actually a very good question. I like it because nothing is given; it's earned.
Right.
No one's going to give you a state title. You're going to earn it.
Right.
You have to go out there and get it. I like it because it's a motivating, catchy phrase that is not just cliche, but it's got a symbolic meaning to it, to where nothing is, to me, it's nothing is given. You have to go earn it.
Right.
And it's just like respect. Respect is earned, not given. And I think it crosses not just wrestling, because we're talking about wrestling.
We like to call it we like to call it a lifestyle. It's embodying a lifestyle to get what you want in life and getting it the right way and doing the right things to earn it. You can't take shortcuts in this life to be successful. And if that's the route you're going to go, your success is not going to be very long running. And so like a sport like wrestling, it fit perfect with us as a brand to come out with Go Earn It, because we believe that that's what wrestling's all about. And just like you said, same with everything in life. If you want to go be cheap and take shortcuts, you're not going to get far.
You're not. You're just not. I think it's a good thing, and I think it's motivational and definitely. I'm wearing your gear, so it's.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, by any means, I just want listeners to know on the podcast. When I reached out to Mike, he was gracious and kind enough to accept our invitation to be on the Go Earn It podcast. This is not a ploy to get him sponsorship or none of that. We just appreciate his time just to be able to talk, and that's why we hooked him and his son up with gear, because we believe that there are people in this life that earn things because of their hard work, and that's what we do here.
I really do appreciate it. It's good gear, by the way. I like it.
Thank you.
I like the Captain America.
Yeah.
The no-gi attire.
Yeah.
I look like one big American flag with heavy long stockings, braids coming down, and
I had a quick question though before I get off the podcast with you. How hard is it for you to roll with that mustache, man? How
I get that asked all the time.
I know that's such a cliche. I wanted to avoid the beard and mustache question, but I would be silly not to bring it up. So I guess my spin on the question is, when you're rolling, whether it's gi, no gi, just grappling in general, how much of a pain in the ass is it for you to deal with?
Look, it was more of a pain in the ass when it was shorter, believe it or not. Okay? It's braided up, and what I do, I just tuck it in my rash guard.
Oh, go figure.
And I tuck it in my Go Earn It rash guard, by the way.
Thank you.
I tuck it in my rash guard, and it doesn't get in the way. Now, if you wouldn't be a good bro, you wouldn't go for it. You know what I mean? So
has anybody tried going for it?
Come on, bro.
Yeah,
dude. By now, if you don't know my personality, I'm a clown. I joke around, and I'm not as I don't know. I guess what I appear, I look like.
Serious. I get that too. I shave my head bald, and everyone's like, "Why you look mean and serious?" I'm like, "That's your opinion. I can care less, though."
Yeah, on the mat, I'm the guy that's joking around and clowning, and older guy on the mat that I get gassed and I get smashed on, and I'll give you a good round, but dude, after that, it's hard for me to get a kick in gear. I got to take some deep breaths and get back in it.
Yeah,
but my bros do go for it. The close friends of mine that I do have, oh, dude, come on, man. They're going for it. So we're doing some hand fighting underneath the bottom. So it's fun. But it really, realistically, it doesn't honestly get in the way. If you're going for something like a gi choke or something, or, I'll just give it to you, and then you take it from there, which makes you have to work and defend it. But I don't roll very hard anymore. I just roll I flow roll for the most part.
You stay in good shape. I was going to ask you, what's the training regimen for Mike Beltran? Like, how does that work? Because, I mean, I'd say you're probably the most fit ref they have out in MMA right now. I mean, I know there's a couple of guys that stay in shape, but as far as your health and, wellness goes, I mean, I saw your Instagram post that you gave us a shout out wearing the quarter zip. I mean, you're looking like a monster, man. So how do you keep in shape?
I do work out. My fiance kicks my ass straight up, dude. She's a beast.
Yeah.
She's the one that obviously I do it because I love to do it,
Yeah.
and I believe in longevity. You got to take care of your heart, and be in shape. Leadership by example, bro. Here at the house, I can't tell my son to do something that I wouldn't do. Then I'd be a punk.
Right.
What kind of it irks me when I see parents that are really completely out of shape, and then they're living through their son, but yet they couldn't do what he's doing now. And it's a family thing. We all train in this household, even my dog, even Duke's, he's a protection bite dog, and
Yeah.
that's just the kind of family we have and the structure we have here. And there's a lot of love here in my household now, no doubt. We love Mikey, but there's a lot of tough love, man. You're held, there's consequences for your actions. So
For sure.
you act like a donkey, there's going to be consequences.
You might get kicked.
That's it, brother, for sure.
Well,
But
Mike,
I do work.
thank you so much for being on. Where can listeners follow you, check you out, talk a little bit about where you'll be working this weekend, if you don't mind?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'll be catching a flight here in a few hours to San Jose. I'll be working Bellator, so that's going to be a pretty amazing card. Ryan Bader and King Mo for the heavyweight Grand Prix.
Now, can you say if you're gonna be reffing that main headline, or you're reffing throughout the card?
I'm reffing the event. I don't know what I have yet.
Okay.
Usually they'll let us know, or there'll be a press release who's doing what, and I don't. You know what? Honestly, brother, I don't even ask.
I'm sure you don't care either, because it's your job either way. Whether it's a Monday or a Friday, you're doing the same thing. So.
Same thing. It's just going to be. I am excited to be in there, no doubt. I'm privileged. Bellator is doing an amazing job, man. They're cool to work for.
It's crazy too with the news. They UFC let go of Yair Rodriguez, so I'm gonna make a guess right now that Bellator is gonna hop on him real quick. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see him in Bellator, man. I mean, if that happens, you never know. Something could pop up differently, but. It'd be a no-brainer for Bellator to hop on that. So
he's a dude. I've been around him, and boy, he's exciting. And whatever happened between them and the UFC, I wish the kid the best.
Yeah.
Wherever he goes, and hopefully lands on his feet, and I believe he will somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
He's exciting and popular, so he brings a lot to the table. So somebody will pick him up.
Well, Mike, good luck to you this weekend. So listeners can find Mike Beltran at what Instagram page? Where can we follow you at?
Referee Mike Beltran on Instagram.
Perfect. And then Little Mikey, where can we find Little Mikey Beltran?
Mikey, pushing 6'4", I'm Little Mikey now. So
yeah.
he is Michael Beltran. Michael Beltran on Instagram. Awesome. Underscore Michael _Beltran.
Well, good luck. Tell Mikey we say good luck in this upcoming season, and we're looking forward to watching him. And we definitely will be out there in California. And when we do come out there, I'll make sure to hit you guys up and make sure I visit.
You do, and if you're in LA, man, just come down to Casa Beltran. I'll hook it up. We're here with some food and some steaks.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, Mike. Mike, thank you for being on the podcast. Take care.
Take care, buddy. God bless, bro. Thank you.
See you later.
All right, bye.